Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order at 11:03. Let's do a roll call to establish a quorum. Paul Goodrow here.
Jeff
Linda
Galucci here.
Snyder here.
Rick Sanders
Linda
here.
Snyder.
Mulligan here.
Linda Snyder here.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You got 8 of you.
Okay, John Coyle is missing.
That's correct.
Okay. So let's mark the attendance down, Cezanne, please. And Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum?
We do.
Okay, let's carry on then. We have members speaking. Lanny Wheeler.
Lanny asked me to read this letter here. Okay. Dear Board of Directors, it appears that the irrigation component of our contract with Expert Lawn Care is significantly underfunded. We and many of our neighbors have poorly functioning and non-functioning sprinklers that are not repaired in a timely manner, resulting in many patches of dead grass. Expert Lawn Care reported that we have a backlog of over 1,000 sprinklers that need service. Routine wet checks have not been sufficient to maintain healthy lawns. Please address this problem as you develop the 2024 budget. The funding for landscaping has fallen way below inflation, resulting in poorer service. We support increasing our fees to correct this problem. Thank you, Don and Lanny Wheeler.
Okay, thank you, Rick. We will take that under advisement. And let's now move to another member speaking, Cheryl Chase.
I've been asked to read that.
Go ahead, Lynn.
I would like to request that the Board of Directors put on the agenda and discuss amending our current rule, which prohibits vendors from entering the community on Sundays and holidays. The following was my experience. On Memorial Day, my housekeeper tried to enter Sterling Oaks to clean my house, and Maria in the guardhouse would not permit her to enter. When I went up to explain, not only does she clean, but while she's there, she keeps an eye on my 91-year-old mother with dementia, which allows us to go out. Maria still refused to give her gate access. She told me to have the management talk to the board, but these are the rules. So my cleaner drove back to Fort Myers and my husband and I stayed home. I'm sure I'm not the only one in this position. But in addition to a housekeeper, I do have caregivers, physical therapists, and sometimes visiting nurses come to see my mom. They could be scheduled anytime, even on a Sunday or a holiday. The way our current rules are written, they would not be permitted gate access, which would be a true hardship. I understand that we do not want landscapers, delivery trucks, roofers, and others with commercial vehicles, but I respectfully ask the Board of Directors to amend these rules to allow housekeepers, caregivers, physical therapists, visiting nurses, etc., to be allowed to enter every day. These are people who work quietly in a house and cause no disturbance to the community. I'm looking forward to these changes. Thank you very much. Respectfully, Cheryl Chase.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. Guess we could deal with this in several ways. We could deal with it now. We could move this to a formal agenda item in the future, or we can dismiss it. I recommend that we not dismiss it, but deal with this. Let's take a quick poll as to if you agree with me when we deal with this. Lynn, why don't you start us off?
Well, I would suggest we deal with it right off because apparently physical therapists and nurses and that sort of person does have to come in year round.
Okay, I
So-
need to hear from the rest of you.
Deal with it now. Sure. No.
Okay, that's 3, 4,
No.
5.
No.
Okay. So we have a majority of the board that wishes to deal with it immediately. So let's begin discussion.
Well,
John Mulligan.
yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that those should be the exceptions. I have another question though. What if my air conditioning breaks down on a Saturday and I need somebody to come in and fix it? I mean, I have to wait till Monday?
No. Emergencies are let in, electricians, plumbers, air conditioning people.
You
Lynn, go
say
ahead.
they're let in, but are we sure that they could get in?
Let me,
Yes.
Are we sure they would be let in?
And all emergencies are allowed in at any time because that's the nature of the game, as long as they're called in under an emergency. Second of all caregivers, medical personnel, anybody that has to be on into a person's house on a daily basis or frequent basis that is a permanent visitor that can be that it's for home health care, also can enter at any day at any time, day or night, because you never know when that emergency might arise that you might have to have that vendor in there. So we don't discern that. It's really when their term is contractor,
Yeah.
and we have a contractor, that's where we say that's the vendor that should not be there on a Sunday or on, a holiday where, the community is at rest. But all of the daily caregivers and whatnot are fully allowed this time, as long as the person calls in and says, listen, my home healthcare person needs to be on my permanent guest list for visitation purposes for my mom or, my husband or spouse or whatever. We don't discern or discriminate against that. So we can and we can reiterate that to the guardhouse to make sure that they fully understand that as well. We can also put realtors on, make sure that they can get in on Sundays as well for the open houses and for previews, etc.
Mark, there's a problem with that because if someone has surgery and then the Medicare sends people, they don't give them a name. You might have a different one every time they come to take care of you. So you can't.
It's the company, not the name. Home
Okay.
health services, something physical rehabilitation, whatever the company name is, because we do have multiple differences. Now, if you're going to be in Cheryl's case, it's her housekeeper. She wants her housekeeper in on Sundays so that she can watch her mom and her and Andy can get a breath of fresh air and get down to the pool or go somewhere. But she's still there as a health caregiver. We don't have an issue with that.
Well, does the health caregiver have to be on the permanent guest list? Or could
Yes.
Cheryl?
Because
Yes,
otherwise, if they just drive up to the gate and go, hi, I'm a home health caregiver, I'm going to be going to, 1234 Silver Strand. Who are you? Well, we're just a home health caregiver. No, they have to be on the list. They as long as the name of the company or the person is, that's how you get in. That's for any guest, though.
does the answer is Cheryl, get this person on your permanent guest list?
I think she is. It's just that Maria was saying if she's going to be a housekeeper, not a home health caregiver, then that's a difference. But if she's labeled home health caregiver, she's got all the rights to get in at any time, which we don't have any issues with that whatsoever. I'm sure that Maria didn't know at the time when Molly Maids, shows up at the gate as a contractor to clean houses. It's like a pool service, same thing. Pool company comes in. Usually they give one home, as an address, which they're on the permanent list, but they go to six or 7 or 8 houses while they're in the house there. So,
Well, let's get Maria straightened out so that we can resolve this issue. I want to go to Brownie, but it seems to me like the issue is almost fixed. But Brownie, go ahead.
it sounds like to me that the issue is fixed with one exception. we do have that rule that we can only put people on a permit list at a certain date. So if someone, gets in a situation where they have to hire a caretaker or a Medicare person or et cetera, we need to make an exception to be able for that type of person to be allow an owner to put them on the list at any time they start. That's the only thing I can see would be a problem.
Correct.
I think administration can handle that. Isn't
And
that
we-
part of
you-
the
we can-
protocol?
Yeah, we add any vendor, any permanent vendor at any time, whether it's your AC company, whether or not it's anybody. The only permanent guest list that you can't change about once a year is those people who are going to be, have access to your home, to live in your home, who are your family, who can come in at 2 a.m. unannounced and knock on your door at 2 o'clock in the morning on any given day. Those are your permanent guests. Permanent vendors, AC, plumbing, et cetera, all are, if they're on there, it's an emergency, then they can get in. But if not, then they're scheduled regular vendor hours. Cheryl's not asking for the housekeeper to be there at 1 in the morning or 12 midnight. She's asking for her housekeeper to be there during the day to clean the house and watch her mom while they go out to eat lunch, which is fine. There's no issues there.
All right, so let's say that this issue is resolved. Lynn, can you contact Cheryl and let her know that we bless this decision and she can carry on with her home care health aid person?
So let me just ask a question. If she has a physical therapist come in, and that physical therapist is not on the list, that physical therapist can get in any day. Are you telling me that?
No, if she's not on the list, all people have to be on the list. You don't have people just show up unannounced out of the blue to come to your house under the guise of, I'm a doctor, I'm a physical therapist, oh, I'm a pet care worker, I'm here to look at their lanai in their pool. People aren't allowed to walk through the door unannounced. That's not why we have a guard gate there. Otherwise, we should just let the gates be open 24/7, which save us a lot of money. Actually.
And it's a company that has to register.
Yes,
What-
it's very interesting that you can call up and say, I have an emergency plumber problem, but you can't call up and say, my mom just fell and needs a physical therapist. I
You can. Of course you can, but if
You
you're gonna
can.
call the physical therapist, you're gonna know who the physical therapist is, whether or not it's Naples Physical Therapy or something like that, but might not.
Okay.
It might
So
not.
any emergency. I
Right.
got it.
Well, yes, and the guard gate is gonna watch what's going on. I mean, we have people that coming in who we have, the reason you have this here is to kind of keep an eye on who's coming through the door so that you don't have gypsies posing as individuals so they can come in and take care of and get into people's houses and pose as pool repair people, walk in through their back lanai and then get inside their house, which we've asked companies because people have found people on their cameras. Why is this person in my backyard in my pool when I don't have anybody scheduled? How did he get in here? So we want to know, we want to know who's coming through the property at any time. That's
Okay, folks,
that's
we
standard
got a
procedure.
lot on the agenda today. I think we've resolved this issue. We have a lot more to talk about. I don't want to be here till 6 o'clock this evening. Brownie, you had your hand
Just
up.
one question.
See if we can wrap this
Was
up.
this caretaker on Cheryl's list? So was that overlooked or was it the guard's problem not knowing the rules?
No,
The guard's
she was
problem.
not a caretaker. She's a housekeeper. She's a
Was she on
housekeeper
Cheryl's list?
as a housekeeper,
Okay.
which
So
is
she
a
should be let
vendor.
in then if she's on a permanent list.
No, she's not as a vendor on a holiday. Your plumber isn't allowed in, your pool person isn't allowed in, your housekeeper is your maid. Molly Maid Service, which is a vendor, a contractor, is not allowed. However, she didn't have her down as a home health care person.
You're saying you can't have a caretaker on a holiday or Sunday?
I'm not saying that you're Brownie, that's not what I'm saying. Caretaker is one thing. She didn't have her as a caretaker, she had her as a housekeeper.
But
Straight,
we've resolved this
Mommy
issue.
maid.
We've sorted that
There's a
out,
difference.
folks.
Well,
We've
if
sorted
only
that
the
out.
hospital on a Sunday or holiday, they're not out in the
Oh,
community.
geez.
They're inside your house. I don't see where that's
And
an
listen,
issue.
if you guys want to change the rules and allow vendors in on the holidays and Sundays, it's up to you. I'm just telling you that that currently vendors, contractors, tile, pool people, handymen, those people who are electricians, people who are doing stuff are not allowed in on those days. Home health care, physical therapy, those people are allowed in on Sundays and holidays. Cheryl is only asking that her housekeeper / caregiver be allowed the access. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that Cheryl's list basically has Donna Smith as a caregiver, not as a housekeeper. That's all.
Okay,
That's good.
can we move on? Can we move on, please? And let's go to the secretary's report. We've resolved this issue.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the July 17th, 2023 meeting.
Need a second?
Second,
Any discussion, corrections? If not, I'll ask for those who are in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. President's report. In your packet, you will see an attachment based on a focus group summary. And that summary was a result of 7 focus groups that were held as part of the strategic plan. The groups were held to gather greater depth and breadth on the areas of importance for future board of directors and club management action planning. Participants were encouraged to provide their candid thoughts and concerns regarding their community and club. Each focus group session began with a discussion, and you have here a discussion about non-resident tennis memberships. We're going to hold that in abeyance until we discuss this item later on in the agenda. But I wanted to bring your attention to this before we get on, and this will constitute essentially my president's report. So with that, let's go to general manager's report.
Mark, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Summer projects, the sidewalk repairs are complete, but there's still a number of areas that we need to look into and take care of, whether or not they're in Silver Strand, over by 1182, over by the 17, I think, 46 over in on Sanctuary Point up by the Falcos. There are 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 areas that came to our attention after the original contractor's measurements were taken. We have those areas listed, and we will get back to them on our next cycle. The valley curb gutters are done and repaired. That was a fairly much of a nightmare. The subcontractor did a horrible job of tearing out the valley gutters and damaged a lot of sod and for a lot of pavement. I am replacing the sod and getting that done, and the pavement has been done. That's been taken care of by the contractor. When it's all said and done, we'll probably reseal coat those areas to make them blend in with the rest of the roads. Clubhouse roof, of course, is still waiting on tiles. We haven't heard anything new on that I know of, other than it's going to be sometime later in the year or possibly even the beginning of next. The pool lighting engineer is on, we actually called 4 engineers at the end of the day. None of the engineers really wanted to come out here, so we ended up reaching out to our lighting companies, the ones that had supplied us the information for the street lights, the company we bought the street lights from, and also dealing with the lights for the tennis courts. And they're on property today to go down and take a look at the pool area, get an idea of what it would take to put in the lighting that would be necessary for the county to look at a permit for that lighting. So once I get that information as far as possible costs for the lights and for the analytics, I will get that back to the board and let you know what that's all about. The engineer, this guy who works for Frontier Lighting, said that he has just redone a place up in Fort Myers, and he's also working in another place in Collier, that the lighting standards for public gatherings at night in a pool area, whether it's private, a hotel, club like us, or POA, have changed, and the permitting is much more stringent with the lumens per foot, etc. So once I get that information back, I'll give it to you at this next board meeting. Currently in the clubhouse, we're tore up pretty good. We've been doing a lot of work, taking care of getting cleaning and maintenance ready to go. The kitchen, I wish I had a camera to show you that we've moved all the equipment out of the kitchen, and that includes all of the coolers, the ovens, the fryers, the sinks, everything off the walls, everything out, so that we can get that floor prepped and get ready. That floor is from 1996 and is going to be replaced with an epoxy floor, and that should be done this next week. So I'm hopeful that that should help us out with cleaning and sealing. We found that there was a lot of leaks over the years from walls and from AC and from exterior leaks that we weren't aware of, from the roof as well. We had to replace drywall and FRP in the walls. It's been an extensive process back there dealing with all of that. The bocce pergolas are still under contract. We're expecting those to be done. We found out that we're in the queue. He is working on 3 or 4 other areas within the community, putting up pergolas throughout Naples and Fort Myers, and we're expecting that to be done before January. So we'll keep an eye on that. The water feature at the clubhouse is still being worked on. Today they're cleaning it. Tomorrow it will be painted interior. The landscaping has been installed except for the sod. There's still some work to do on the irrigation out there to get that all squared away. And we're working on getting the water from the clubhouse to that area for the pool pump. I can only tell you that it's been a labor of love. We had to do an enormous amount of work with the stuff that was buried originally in that mound before they dug a hole and poured the concrete in it in 2008 for that fountain. All the infrastructure was covered over by concrete. It wasn't looped around or dug out, so we've had to redo a lot of that. The marsh project was started. The company GWE was out. They sprayed the marsh in that area that they're going to be cleaning out. I think they're just waiting for the grasses to die, and then they're going to come back and take that out so they can get the that water area cleaned out and also put in the plantings. On the strategic plan from the staff concept side, our goal from you folks was set that we had to have our customer service classes in place, at least that portion of the strategic plan, completed by this September 1. I can tell you that we have had our Dale Carnegie class for the office staff and management, and our food and beverage staff, as well as tennis and office staff, have also been completing, and most of them all completed the customer service training staff classes that are offered online through our PEO Co-Advantage. And I have to say that we've learned quite a bit. And I think that the community is probably going to see a little bit of a different mindset when it comes to that. But that's only one facet of that strategic plan. The other parts of that strategic plan are having to deal with how the office staff deals with the onslaught of the seasonal influx of membership. I think that you have to go back in time. Maybe I started here, and I think in 2012, and when I did, we had an outside accounting system. We had our regular membership. We had a very minimalistic food and beverage operation. And between that time and now, Cezanne has taken on almost all the accounting in-house. From that time, we've grown robustly in membership. We've done a lot more stuff that's coming through the doors in this house, and still the staff and the office remains the same. So with that, I've gone ahead and I've got a hold of a contractor, the one that did the cabana remodel of the bathrooms down there, Top Solutions. And I'm working with their architect to try to draw up some plans and get some ideas on how to reformat this office area to become more efficient and better structured to be able to manage and take care of the membership and the residents in a timely and efficient and a more cooperative manner, rather than having people just walk through the door and go into somebody's office and go, I need to talk to you now. And whether or not we're on the phone, on an email, or working, or in a meeting, or not there, we have to drop everything and try to take care of that. And if we don't, our customer service is deemed to be poor. So I'm going to be getting some information back to you here shortly. I would expect that I will be putting forth some plans, some ideas, and some cost to renovate these offices for next summer as a part of the strategic plan to continue better serving the community with the staff that we have. And that concludes my report.
Very good. Any questions of Mark? If not, let's move to treasurer's report. John Mulligan, please.
Okay. The reserve and budget process is underway. We've been working on reserve, so we give Drew Isaac, our reserve consultant, the most accurate information we can for them to do the 2024 reserve study. Cezanne is working diligently to get the first draft of the 2024 budget to me by the first week of September. Okay. Since we had a meeting early in July, we didn't have any June financials yet. So I will be commenting on both June and July in this report. During the months of June and July, we had net income of $31,000 versus a budget of $4,000 for a favorable variance of $27,000. Tennis had a favorable variance of $20,000 for those 2 months. The year-to-date favorable variance of budget is $40K, a net income of $85,000. This is due to the increased non-resident membership. I expect this to continue, and net income should be $100,000 plus a year end. Social was on budget for 2 months and has a year-to-date favorable variance to budget of $34,000. As I mentioned in May, the summer months will see a considerable decrease in activity as well as profitability, as most people have gone north. This was expected as usual and budget accordingly. I expect that most of the $34,000 favorable budget will be there at year end. Common areas had a favorable variance of $8,000 for 2 months, and there's a year-to-date favorable variance of $29,000 year-to-date. Once again, there are a lot of ups and downs with several accounts, but expect to be in budget at year end. G&A had an unfavorable variance to budget for 2 months of $7,000, and a year-to-date unfavorable variance to budget of $37,000. Part of this is due to sewer repair and lower capital contribution from home sales. I expect G&A to be unfavorable at year end. The year-to-date net income as of 7/31 is 123,000 versus a budget of 38,000 for a favorable variance of 85,000. I expect most of this favorable variance to remain by year end. Any questions?
John, how are we coming with the budget submissions on the part of liaisons and committees?
As far as I know, they've all been submitted or being worked on. I'm not sure if tennis is totally done yet, but I know it's being worked on and Suzanne is putting together. So we should keep to our schedule that we have, that the first draft will be ready in the beginning of September.
Very good. Okay, any questions of John?
Comment.
Brownie, go ahead.
I just wanted to make one comment to make sure all the board members understood that on non-resident tennis members, our numbers are up, of course, but that's a result of the fact that we actually credit the non-resident fees month by month. So those income that we're getting now on non-resident tennis results from those that joined last fall and during the season. So that doesn't reflect necessarily that we're adding non-resident members or that's very robust. That's still the carryover the way we actually do that. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that the tennis is up because of the last season, not necessarily a future looking thing. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that, but you don't do financials by looking forward. You look at financials of what is going on. So yes, this is not a forward-looking financials.
Yeah, but my concern is that good number for 2023 won't necessarily occur in 2024, because we may drop in non-residents.
Or we may
There's a lag in recovering the income from non-residents.
Right. We may, as Paul said, we may increase too. So we'll talk about that when we do the budget.
Okay, any other questions of John? If not, thank you, John. Let's go to committee project team reports. Let's start with activities. I think we have a record activity report from Lindia.
Yes,
Record, that will be the
and
most
short.
brief ever.
and short. That's what you mean.
Yeah.
Past events, Friday dining and food and drinks at the Cabana continued throughout the dog days of summer. The book was selected, the book club selected their new book for the October book club meeting at 1:00 on October 10th at the club. The book is Looking for Jane by Heather Marshall. Due to renovations of our kitchen and the annual cleaning and maintenance at the club, food events and club facility usage is curtailed for 2 weeks. Weekend beverages will be available at the Cabana, as dates and times for usage of the facilities and availability of services will vary due to this schedule. We asked you to go to your website, TV channel, and Nicole's emails for new and changing information. This concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions of Lynn? If not, let's go to chat and landscape.
No, we're on meetings. Is it real important? I took out the cell, I got rid of the creativity.
That me?
There's 3 pieces of wood
Yep.
and everything else I got rid of out of the cell, so I just want to look. Okay, I'll let them know. We're on meetings. Okay, all right.
Sorry, go ahead, chat.
Okay, phase 1, which was approved about 2 months ago, is about 90% done. This is in spite of the fact that it's been ungodly hot. And Expert, who does most of the installations, has to spend what seems to be an extraordinary amount of time fixing irrigation problems. But it's 90% done, and what's been done so far is looking good. I have $8,957 worth of projects that I'd like you to approve. If I go through these, anyone wants to know what kind of shrub or what kind of flower or what kind of bush, don't ask, because I don't know. This is up to the committee, and they know what they're doing. We have $8,957 worth of requests for 6 items. The median entering into Deer Creek, the entrance gate out back, the left and the right side need work. The pool deck eating area by the tiki bar and the hot tub is pretty ugly and needs work. The preserve, the sign area for the preserve needs improvement. Court 12 on the north end needs to be fixed. And the last one is when we approve the removal of a big oak tree in common area ground, the owner did what they were supposed to do, which is they got rid of it at their expense. They got rid of the stump. But surrounding that area, there's just an awful lot of dead brown space that needs to be sodded. This, under our current rules, is not the responsibility of the homeowner. So phase 6 of this $8,900, part 6 of this $8,957 is sodding that area. If you have questions about that, we'll come back when I'm done. As we look ahead, I want to point out that we have a requested estimate for a very important project. As soon as we get it, we'll ask for approval, which is the condo fence line along 41. These people have been asking for this for a while. We have it at the top of the list as it relates to getting an estimate to get it done. And hopefully by next meeting, I'll be able to give you a number. We have one other important, in my opinion, outstanding issue. If anyone has noticed the pool area along the fence on the parking lot side, it's a jungle, and it's never been planned. What's in there now is helter skelter, shrubs and plants and bushes being put in. That needs a lot of work, and in my opinion, is the most important outstanding improvement that we need to make that we currently don't have an estimate for. You add this all up between what we've already spent, what we're asking to spend, and what we requested, like the condo fence line, and hopefully the pool area along the fence on the parking lot side, I think we're not going to be exceeding the budget. I'm not positive, but if we do, we'll either not do it or you can approve an increase. That is the end of my report. Mark, you might want to comment on the sod issue on Silver Strand.
So what we're finding out is that when an ASC modification is requested, and that's one where the person is asking for removal of a tree. They removed the tree, they did what they asked, but the surrounding area, because of the tree removal, requires more remediation than simply just the removal and leaving all of the ground there. It really should have this grass put back in its place. This is also what we're finding it with people who are putting paver driveways in. They go ahead and they have the company come in, tear apart their existing concrete driveway or whatever they have. They place a dumpster in the street and they use their machinery out on the street to place all of the pavers, to do all the work. And then they put the new paver driveway in, which looked beautiful. And then they drive away, and the street that's in front of the house that was just recently paved and seal coated is now pitted with dents and holes from where they have their ramps or from their equipment or dumpsters, and all of the dust, the sand, which has all been piled in there, and they haven't done anything to do to clean that up. And I think this is where the ASC is going to ask for, we hope the ASC is going to ask the board to add the remediation of the surrounding areas that are affected by those requests to be a part of the actual modification approval process. That's
Yeah, that's a good summary. So the bottom line, I move that we approve $8,957 for landscaping work that I'll call phase 2.
Need a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
Okay, Lindy is seconds. Any discussion?
I get one.
If not, I'll ask for
Well-
approval. John Mulligan, was that you?
Yes, yeah,
Go ahead.
not that it matters, but we are well under budget for this line item, so I have no problem whatsoever.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
that's,
good to
that's
know.
good.
Thank you.
And I'll remind the board, landscaping was a very high priority through our strategic planning process. So I also have no qualms about supporting this. If there are no other questions, I'll ask all of those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Very good. Thank you, chap. Let's go now to pickleball. Cezanne, you want to read this?
I will do my best, and I'll request Mark if I start having a coughing frenzy, if you'll pick up where I left off. The pickleball committee continues to meet monthly in preparation of the upcoming season. Dates have been finalized for the welcome back meeting as well as 3 tournaments. The open play schedule will resume in October and will follow a similar format to last year's. The committee is planning to circulate a survey to the pickleball players to assertion tournament formats and other events of interest to the members, as well as to solicit feedback on the state of pickleball at Sterling Oaks. Another contractor, Fast Dry, has submitted a bid related to the court expansion project. This is the 4th contractor to submit a bid, and we anticipate another contractor bid within 2 weeks. Once all the bids have been received, the information will be summarized and options for expansion will be presented to the board at the September board meeting. We do not anticipate any expansion work will occur this season, most likely April at the earliest. That concludes Mr. Coyle's report.
Okay, any discussion? If not, let's move to pool project team. Steve Mara, please.
Thanks, Paul. To start, the pool project team would like to thank the board for approving phase 1 of the pool furniture replacement. We know our residents are going to appreciate it and they deserve it. I think it'll be well received once everyone gets back. Second one is that we are working with Mark again on hopefully looking at increasing the pool hours. But again, Mark reported on it earlier. We're still waiting for some reports before we can move forward on that. They also talked about the pool monitor that we've talked about before as far as rule enforcement and maintenance around the pool. Again, opening the umbrellas, washing tables, arranging furniture. These are things, again, that we've also talked to Mark about. The fifth item was landscaping, which again, I think Chap just hit on, that there's going to be some improvements there, which I think, again, will be a very well-received addition to the pool. And the last item was cabana hours. I know we talked about increasing it from January through April, but we were talking about increasing it starting December 15th, because a lot of people are here for the holidays. And that was just another recommendation that we wanted to make. Instead of going January 1st, go to December 15th. And again, we wanted to thank the board for their support. And that concludes the pool project team report.
Very good. Let me remind everyone, this is a pool project team. It is not a standing committee. It does not last forever. However, we may or may not continue with this in the future. But I'm very heartened with the work of the project team. And again, this was reflected in the strategic plan as being a high priority. So Steve, thank you and the team for your good work.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to,
Question.
go ahead, Brownie.
Steve, on item 3, you have the statement resident entry only as a recommendation. Are you saying you're recommending only residents use the pool during the?
That's not the first time that's come up. We've said that several times. The pool committee thinks that residents only should be used and renters should be using our pool. They've said that before in the past. That's a repeat. That's their recommendation, that no outside people use our pool. Why would we let outside people use our pool when it's full of residents? Why would you want to add to that? And we've talked about that. That's been recommended before by the pool project team.
Okay.
That's been their stance all along.
Okay, any other questions? If not, let's go to old business. Mark, help me with
I'm
this.
sorry, you have a tennis report.
Well,
Okay,
I thought that was on the agenda later.
yeah, well, let's do it under the tennis membership thing. You can get,
Yeah,
I think
okay,
that will
it's
flow
really-
nicely.
It's
With
really
that
about
discussion.
tennis membership, so.
Paul,
Irrigation first.
Lynn,
just to go back a minute, to Steve's report. Steve, you met residents and immediate family.
Yeah, and renters. Yeah, and renters. Yeah,
Renters,
Yeah.
immediate family. Okay,
yeah, just renters and immediate family. In other words, people who live here. People who live here
well,
and their families.
yeah, and guests.
Yes, just like nothing would change for the residents or the renters.
That's what, okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
okay, under old business, we have I guess a correction we have to make here. There has been a petition for a block wall along US 41 and the condo areas in that section. Mark, do you have the petition before you, and have you circulated that to everyone?
Yes, I just sent it out. This is something that was given to the board quite some time ago. We just kind of was a part of the packet, and everybody went, and no formal action was really taken by the board to approve, not approve this situation. It was kind of a thank you folks for sending us that, but we're not ready to spend the $350,000 on the wall right now. So the petition, let me get it here. So the petition was pretty much put together for by John Rosalia, who lived in section 1340. There he has about 29 signatures of individuals in the local condominium area that have been asking for a 8-foot high concrete block wall to go up and replace the existing fence line and landscaping that is currently along the condominium areas. This is something that the board should either recognize, and I did at the time that he presented this go and look at the costs associated with that wall. And it came to be somewhere around, as I recall back then, this was $187,000 for the construction. That did not include landscaping or demolition, permitting, or anything else. And it did not include the wall on the other side of the entranceway, which would have to match it from the church up to the entrance. So the cost back when I did this in May was somewhere around $350,000 or more. Whether or not that's increased at this time, I can't say. I do know that I went ahead and talked to a couple other communities that were involved in this, and they all came up with the same cost per foot. It's somewhere around $100 to $150 a linear foot. Does not include the permitting, the engineering, or the landscape replacement that's necessary once the cranes come in, demo everything, and then you have to put in the pilings to do the walls. So would it help with dampening the noise? It would probably help with dampening the noise to the people on the bottom floor closest to that wall. Whether or not it would do anything to affect the noise beyond that, because the noise does a curvature loop. That's just the way sound waves go. So that's something that the board can consider. It's have to be probably voted on by the community due to the cost.
Let me remind you, this came up before and the board was silent on moving forward on this. So what I would like to do now is make a formal vote from the board, taking a formal stance on this so that we can communicate to the people on this petition, let them know where we stand. So I need a motion.
I move that we not go forward with a noise barrier wall along US 41 that has been requested by the members who live in the condos.
Okay, I need a second.
I guess I would amend that to at this time. Are you comfortable with that? In other words,
No.
we're tabling it.
No, I just think we should say no. Period. Not
Okay.
waffle on it, but
Motion
not at this
standing.
time. It's an
Motion.
incredible amount of money.
Well, that's what I was getting to. I know we're obviously with the irrigation project, that's a priority. So we're not going to be addressing this now, but that's not to say that after the irrigation's done, I mean, leaving the opportunity to revisit it down the road.
I'm
Well,
not
we
in favor.
will
I'm not
always
in
have
favor
that
of.
opportunity. We have a motion on the floor. I need a second.
Okay.
I need a second. Is that,
You're muted
Ken?
there.
You have a second by Mr. Smolin.
Very good. Okay, now we can carry on with the discussion.
Okay.
Any further discussion about this?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Jim.
Mr. Mulligan has his hand.
I think it's something we should look into. You know, we have enough people there that think it should be done. I think we should look into it, get the total costs. You know, Mark said, we looked at it there as possibly this, and that doesn't include this, this, or that. I think we should look into it seriously, come up with the cost. What other communities have that? You know, I don't think we should just ignore it. So I think it's something we
That
should
was
look
my
into,
point.
come up with costs, what other communities have it, and then make a decision from there, not just saying, we don't want to do it because I'm not sure why.
I'm not sure. I can probably get some approximate costs from individuals. However, is the board willing to work on a engineer and pay the cost for having an engineer and a survey done to specifically get that work together. As with the irrigation project, we had to have quite a bit of work done by Russ Geiger ahead of understanding what the full costs would be. I can only probably get ideas on soft costs or ballpark ideas from individuals. But if you're serious about getting true costs for what happens out there, then I'd have to hire somebody to do the work to get the real numbers together. So I don't know if the board is willing to spend that kind of money ahead of this project. And also, one has to understand that if you're going to put up something of that scale in the front from the entrance wall down to the corner going north, you'd probably want to go ahead and have one going south to match it. Otherwise, it might look odd, in my opinion. And also, I think that the people at the pool and tennis courts would say, what about me? We've been complaining about noise as well. So is that something that the board is willing to do? Or do you want me to just come up with and get some ballpark costs from other communities on what they've been going through for these walls in their area? And I can get some ideas to bring back to the board with those numbers versus spending the money to get an engineer to really do the work.
I would do that. I don't see committing any hard dollars to this thing right now.
Right.
I don't either. And let's keep in mind, this is going to be, from our earlier studies, this is going to be well over $300,000, which means we go to the entire community for a vote. And I think as a board, we have to weigh the probability of all this energy going into a project like that and ending up with a vote in the community. This serves a very small percentage of the community, number one. Number two, the intent of this wall is to curb noise, which will not happen in that area. And another concern is for safety in that area, which is another question I would have. I would stand by this motion and not waste the time of the board and our administration chasing this down. To me, it seems like a foolhardy enterprise.
Yeah.
I agree with totally for a change, with Paul on this one. I've been around on this board for quite a while. This issue in one form or another has been around for years. What we know is it's going to be really expensive. It's probably going to be expensive enough that we're going to have to go to the community to take a vote. I would feel very confident in telling you that if we took it to the community for a vote, it would fail. I don't think we need to spend any more money looking into this. I think we just have to bite the bullet and admit this is not going to happen. So I urge you to vote yes on the motion, which is to basically say, we've considered it, we're not moving forward.
Well, I disagree with that, but I still think, I don't want to spend any money with engineers, but I would like for Mark to be able to get some soft costs on it and talk to other communities who have done this and what are their experience with it, as far as it working, as far as it, whatever.
But we could support the motion and still ask Mark to look into this for future consideration. Maybe another board would approve this. I don't know. Any other discussion? All right, let's call for the motion. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Cezanne, let's do well, you have everyone so far, Cezanne?
Those that approve this motion, Calucci, Godrow, Fuqua, Swallen, Mara, Sanders, I'm sorry, Snyder, I did not see you. Or you deny.
I did not.
Okay.
I
Okay.
will
Those-
preface
those
my,
who-
no,
Those who are not in favor signify by saying nay.
Nay.
nay. I'm saying nay for the same I'd like this in the record. I'm saying this nay for the same reason that I voted for everybody to be on the whole community irrigation project. I don't believe just because we didn't have it and people bought there that they shouldn't have it. So in support of the condos, I'm saying I think it possibly could help them. I don't think very much, but I vote nay.
Okay, read the roll call, Cezanne, please. Do we have enough to carry this?
Yeah, motion passes 6-2.
Okay, good. All right, so we have an answer there, and we'll see where this leads us in the future, if anywhere. Okay, let's go to, under old business, the irrigation project. Let's have a general discussion about where we go from here, as promised earlier. And I don't know what advice to give you. This could carry on for a long time, or it could be very brief. But let's see how it flies, and we'll open it up for discussion. Do we have someone chat?
I'd like Mark to comment on, since, what should I say, the failure of the vote. What has been going on with irrigation? Is it getting worse? No change? Can you comment on that? My perception is it's getting worse.
I can only tell you that we have had the same amount of mainline breaks occurring as we have in the past. And most recently, we had one down by the entrance of the condos. And we sent pictures around on that. It's the same situation where you have the PVC pipes in the ground that are usually they're the 90s coming off of a valve area where the water has to be going like this, and those 90-degree areas are the ones that are cracking and breaking, and our irrigation guys get to them in a fairly quick manner. Usually it takes a day or maybe a day and a half for them to fix the situations. We've been spending at least the same amount of money or more on repairs to those main lines like we have in the past.
Okay.
I reached out to our Steve Hall from Stallman, who said, and I asked him to put together some form of a breakdown to look at the central control system. And he says, I can do that. He goes, the $1 million that I had in the original proposal was to do the mainline central control system. For me to break that up into 5 areas, it's still going to be $200,000 or plus for each of those areas for me to do it, because I still have to put the wire in the ground and bring it all back to a central area, attach it to the existing pumps that are in the ground. and bring those wires around. And it's not as easy as just, putting a box on a post and then turning on the light bulb. So I feel like he's basically said, we're not interested in doing the whole enchilada. He's not interested in coming in and doing it piecemeal, and spending the time and energy on that. So even though I've reached out to him 3 or 4 or 5 times now, he hasn't given me any feedback with numbers. He's told me he would love to take over the entire irrigation system here in the community for $15 a valve. $15 a valve per month, with the number of valves that are in the ground, is an astronomical amount of money, based on Russ Geiger's count. I think there was about well over 1,500 to 2,000 valves, and that doesn't count the ones that are in everybody's lawn in Sanctuary Point or Deer Creek. So the only thing I can do is I can go back out to maybe some other companies. We do have all the engineering specs from Russ Geiger. I can talk to them about looking into doing some other work, and possibly putting together some phased plans over time to do these repairs and replace areas of concern. But the breaks are occurring pretty much at a random point. It's not like it's all in Silver Strand, or it's over by Willow Bend, or it's by the condos or Wildcat. It really is. It's really everywhere, anytime and any day. And it's just the situation we're in with the pipes that are in the ground that are that old.
Paul?
John, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think as we all know, the irrigation project, as it was presented, was defeated soundly. I still think most people in Sterling Oaks think it's something we should be doing or working on. But it should be done. I don't think it should be done across the board like was presented. I think it's got to be done by neighborhoods. Whether it's based on total square feet of the yards or neighborhoods or length of pipe. Because, I think that was soundly told to us through the vote, whether, over 400 people at the condos in Wildcat Cove think that way and decided that, I don't need that. We don't want it, especially if we're paying as much as everybody else. So if we do take care of it through reserves, I think it's got to be split up by area, not just straight like everything else is.
I just shared a little. This is a photo. This was taken on Monday at 2 p.m. Earlier that morning, on my drive down towards the condos. Those pipes down in the ground were gushing water out. Oddly enough, the water comes out of those pipes, goes down in that drain, and goes right back to the pond where the water was being taken out of. So, we're not really losing any water. However, you can see though that the configuration of the pipes that are down there show you the spaghetti world that they're dealing with, and how they come off the main line and then they get broken up into these 2-inch pipes that spaghetti out from wherever the main source is. So, one of those goes down. They have to pull out a lot of that pipe that you can see the blue. It's been glued together as normal. There is a gate valve on it, that red handle. However, they have to drain it, get it down, find out where the leak is, and then cut out most of that because they don't know if it's damaged or not, and then they have to replace it all. So these repairs are happening on a fairly consistent basis, but that's just an indication of what we're talking about when a main line breaks and they have to go into the hole and fix it. That's a pretty common occurrence.
Yeah, one more thing I want to add. From the finance committee, they got a finance committee recommendation. The assessments for the irrigation reserves, whether for pumps, repair, replacement of main lines, ancillary repairs of the main lines or control systems, should be paid proportionally by neighborhood based on benefits received. All owners should share equally in the cost of the common area irrigation infrastructure. Beyond that, each neighborhood should be assessed based on a fair formula approximating the usage of the system.
I have a question, Mark.
Go ahead, Browning.
When we repair that picture you had, assume what you end up replacing all of those joints and some of the piping. Are we using the new pipe that's supposed to last a lot longer when we replace it? Are we able to do that?
No, you can't use an HDPE pipe in configuration with PVC because the way that HDPE pipe is put together is it's a molecular fusion. I have to say that it's basically hard PVC pipe. You can glue it together. The rubberized HDPE, what they do is they put a fusing box over the top of it, and it gets it like this, like it melts it sort of, and as it melts, it goes together and it becomes.
So the answer is no, we can't do that. Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
Not unfortunately. That you'd have to replace,
Okay.
I think from maybe one valve area, a hard metal valve area to another hard metal valve area on that long stretch. You could probably do that with HDPE, but that's the jet and bore over a period of so many feet. But these small repairs in those little areas, no, we can't do it.
Oh, another thing to consider, gang, is the fact that this went to the community turned it down 2-1. Criticism we might suffer is the community may say, they're bringing this up again. We turned it down 2-1. Why are they continuing to talk about this issue? So, we've got that specter looming. So I think we have to consider that too.
I think the reason it's turned down 2-1 is because of the perceived or accurate unfairness of charging it. So it wasn't because people don't think it was needed. It was because different areas are paying as much as everybody else.
That could be. I like the finance committee's recommendation. That seems to make sense to me. I throw that out because if we suffer criticism, it will be, we turned it down. We don't want to hear any more about this.
I understand what you're
saying.
I understand.
Well,
Chap.
let me throw out an alternative here in terms of proceeding. I think Paul is probably right that to try to bring it up again after it just failed 2-1 be a monumental undertaking, and I don't know how we'd figure it out in terms of how to allocate the cost. But that aside, how about trying to build up? Eventually, something's got to be done. I don't think anybody will disagree with that. And what I'm thinking is, should we begin to build up a significant amount of money in reserves to prepare ourselves for what we know is going to happen down the road? What I'm talking about, and I'm just throwing numbers out like willy-nilly, is something like a 25 or 40 or 50 or whatever dollar a month reserve assessment for irrigation. A reserve, yeah, reserve is, yeah. you know what I'm talking about, a reserve assessment, adding it to the reserves. So that's an alternative we might want to think about.
Linda,
Well, to John's point and to the views of the condo owners who felt it was an unfair assessment, that would be exactly the same thing.
Exactly.
What if it was prorated, like you said, John?
Oh, no, I agree. I mean, I agree that we should start setting up an reserve for this, but it should be prorated. We already have a reserve. What do we have? 35,000 in there a year, Mark, for that. So we've already been having one. That's where most of these main breaks have been coming from. Now, should that be increased and then set up a separate reserve for the control panel that, or control center, whatever, that goes out 5 years or 10 years, whatever it is. But that also should be prorated. But
Well,
if not, we're doing the same thing, whether we charge 2.5 million up front across the board or 2.5 million over 5 or 10 years. If everybody's still paying the same thing, all the people in the condos, coach homes, Wildcat Cove and other areas are getting, they're not getting any advantage from, have to pay the same as everybody else does on things that they're not getting the same benefits of.
Look, take this for what it's worth, and I know it's not going to be popular. The reason we decided to do this with everybody paying the same is that this was a community-wide need to keep the community as a whole in the best shape we could possibly make it. And yes, it was turned down because people, like the people in the condos, didn't see how they benefit as much as the person in Manatee. Okay? Now, if we still feel that we should be paying the same amount because it's a community-wide need, you either live here in this community or you don't. If it's a community-wide need, that's what the decision was based on, to do what we did. Now, if we want to stand by that decision, why isn't it still a community-wide need, and why shouldn't everybody be assessed the same amount?
Well, I mean, it's a community-wide need, but other people are getting bigger advantage of it. So why? Apparently, the community doesn't want it that way, chap. So why do we want to? What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing and expecting different results?
Definitely. So you think, okay, so now I'm insane. Okay.
Well, it's been that way for a while, but we won't go into that one.
what if I'll just go. If the budget reflected a pro rata reserve program, which I think would probably drive Cezanne to drink more than she has to now.
I don't drink, but I'll start.
That you're gonna just say condos is gonna be, let's say it's $30 for single family homes, not Sanctuary Point and Half a Deer Creek. It's $15 for each condo, and it's $5 for each of the Sanctuary Point and Deer Creek people, because they're paying only for common areas and not for their own. Just giving an idea. And you did that, even at that small amount, if you could do that for 2 to 3 or 4 years, you'd still have a fairly good amount of money in the kitty to start working on whatever project you wanted to do down the road. And the people would feel at least they paid their fair share to a portion of what needed to be done. And if you could put that, as a down payment, or you could do it as a phased project, at least we get the ball started. I have to liken it to the first discussions of the long-term capital fund, which we know Brownie wasn't a big fan of, but the long-term capital fund started off at $5, $3.50, $18, it went to 36, it's been all over the place. I think lately it's been at $10. So, but that's provided us with enough money in the kitty to be able to do some of the projects that we've wanted to do over time. And hopefully it'll be enough, for instance, for the pickleball project that we have coming up. So maybe if we instituted something like that on an irrigation reserve basis moving forward into 2024, it's something that the board could do. It may, it may not appease everybody. They may not set right with everybody, but it's something that would at least start the ball rolling in an equitable manner to those people who feel that they wanted some variance in the actual costs of the project at hand.
Mark's talking about the same thing I'm
would
talking
agree with
about,
that.
but in a way that's not as quite as insane. What he's talking
agree.
about is,
Yeah,
Yeah.
we gotta do
I agree
something.
with that totally.
I could
So-
support some version of that. I mean, if the option is sit on our hands, I'll support anything that gets it started. And
I
if this
need to
gets
hear
us started,
I need to hear from others of you on what Mark just said. I think it coincides a bit with what John Mulligan is saying also. But I need some more input.
I agree.
Paul,
Lynn?
so if you had enough money coming in, how much could you raise, John, if it came to, if it averaged $50 a month with using the pro rata amounts? If you had $50 a month, how much is that a year? Quick,
Do the
I
math.
mean, just the math. I just need to see what kind of debt or we'd be making, that if it would be worthwhile.
What are you talking about? $50 a month?
Yeah, average,
That's
that's
a
what it would
wallop.
come to.
That's a wallop.
Yeah, that's a pretty
Do
good
you agree,
amount.
John?
Yeah,
That's 36,800 a month.
800, yeah.
It's
450,000.
440,000, yeah.
So if you
Yeah, I
had
think
that
that's a
coming
big-
in. Mhm.
I think that's a big amount to start hitting off. I mean, we gotta
That's
start
what I
looking at the other
wanted
thing
to
too.
know.
Yeah.
That's what I
Let's
wanted to
start
know.
looking at the other thing too. People are always money conscious, always complaining that we're raising our dues so much.
Yeah.
With a hit like that.
Okay,
But-
well,
Thank
that's
you.
what we were talking. So let's go back to 30 and just say, maybe if we have it come to 30 or something, it would still be impactful. I would be willing to go along with something like that.
Well, I think you're gonna have to look at the dues as a whole when it comes to 2024. I can tell you that whether or not you're gonna take another $100,000 out of the checking account to throw at the bottom line like you did this last 2 years, which still, helped out at $11 plus. I think that the community, even though in their hearts, they probably want something done, they don't, I can tell you from the vote that they didn't want the assessment. $50 is more than the actual assessment was for the 3-year plan to renovate the clubhouse. So
Right,
so
right.
I think you're gonna have to probably take a look at
25 or something.
at minimizing that amount and trying to get, even if you cut that down to somewhere in the, if it was 25, it'd be $220,000 a year over 5 years is $1 million, which gets you there. So I think $20, somewhere in that $15 to $20 range, and then you have to figure out what Sanctuary Point and Half a Deer Creek, that they're paying for the common area, but they're not having anything to do with any improvements to their own irrigation line as a thing. should they be included in that, or should you do the pro rata sliding scale across the board? And if you did, it's an accounting nightmare. However, that would that might go a long ways to get the money in the pot and appease the individuals at the same time.
I think it's a good idea.
Mhm.
Rick, what do you think?
Well, I was gonna say that I think the sliding scale is a solution. And Lindy, whatever I think that's comfortable, I don't know how you can just canvass some of your constituents there, the condos, and start from there and then go up from, they would be the lowest assessment, and then you would scale it up. But I think the key is doing something. I agree with Chap. You can't sit on your hands and just say no. I talked to someone who said, are you going to bring it back? I said, well, we can bring it back and cut the 3,400 to 3,200, and it's going to fail again. So that's not the way to do it. But I think this way would be, we're showing the board's commitment to it, that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and we're not impinging on everybody's budget to the point where I can't afford this every single month. My opinion.
Would you include Sanctuary Point then and Deer Creek? The other half?
For common areas only.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I mean,
common
you
only.
wouldn't include this make a whole community project, you wouldn't include them.
I doubt it that you're gonna sell that in Sanctuary Point and Deer Creek after this whole
Okay.
year.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I looked at the breakdowns on the vote, and Sanctuary Point was overwhelmingly in favor. The other, my three, Deer Creek Preserve and Willow Bend, were all about equal. So it wasn't like, even though the total amount was weighted 2-1, there were still people that were interested in doing it. So I said, presenting it as scaled up option would start to build that reserve. And we're showing that we're not just sitting on our hands and saying, oh, we'll just wait till everything just keeps breaking, and then we're going to pay more for it. I think that's the way I would present it. The way I agree with what John said.
Okay, any other comments? How about this idea if we set up a committee of the board or project team of several of us, maybe 3, maybe 4, to look into this and come back to the board with some recommendations that we can respond to. That will kind of keep the issue alive, number one, and number two, force the board to consider options down the road without dropping this entirely. And it would give us some time for this committee to put some things together that are more concrete, and rather than just talk about it globally here today. How do you feel about that?
Can I recommend that Jim Moxley, John Mulligan, did Jim Moxley's dissertation on this subject go to the board itself?
What do you mean?
Well, remember Jim wrote the email and talked about how this was all gonna be put together with the reserves in his mind, as far as his solution to this problem, utilizing this scale. My opinion is that because this is having to do with the finances of the club, and it's going to be very impactful to the 2024 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 budget, that the finance committee has a lot of really good minds on it, and that they take that task on, at least to do some pro forma work on it, to get some ideas.
Yeah, I mean, we've been looking at that. We've been throwing some things around, but we're waiting for this board meeting to see, okay, what direction does the board want us to go in? I mean, I think it sounds like everybody thinks we should put in reserves, whether, how much or not, that's still to be determined. And sounds like at least most of the people that talked here think there should be some kind of pro rata,
All right, well,
area.
this is what I'm talking about. We're all talking back and forth with each other. I'd like to have something on the table with some solid recommendations as to where we go, and I'd like to get it from the board directly. And John, if the finance committee has done some work on that, I'd like you to serve on this little committee, and maybe Chap and one or two other board members here to come back to the board with some recommendations. I'd rather have it come from
I'd
the board
volunteer.
than any specific committee.
Paul,
So just a minute, Lynn, I've got Rick,
Yep.
Chap, are you willing?
Sure. Yeah, but I've only got 6 more months on the board, so.
All right, I got Rick, Chap, and John Mulligan. Lynn, I'll go to your question and I'll ask for one other board member to serve on this. Lynn, go ahead.
it really wasn't a question, it was a statement. If at our condo chat session, one of the biggest complaints that came up was, how come you didn't have a reserve for this? How come you didn't plan for it? Why are you hitting us with this all at once, all of a sudden, right out of the blue? So I think
Well,
it's a
we're
good
pretty-
team here.
Yeah, I think we're well aware of that concern, and it was our concern also, but hey, we're 25 years old
Water under the
Right.
bridge.
for the original boards. So
Yep.
do I have any other volunteer for this committee?
Well, I'll help if
Is
you
that
don't
Ken
have one.
Swallen? Is that Ken Swallen?
I will volunteer for it.
You will.
Yes.
Okay, you're on. Do we have
Okay.
any others that are willing to work with this group?
Careful, you get to.
Can't
too
have
many,
more
you
than
can't
4.
Go there, you gotta have 4.
You can have
Good
one.
point. Good point. Okay.
I'm sorry, I was in a mid-conversation. Can you note who the 4 are for the minutes?
Swallen, Sanders, Colucci, Mulligan.
Thank you.
Okay, and your job is to come back to the board with some recommendations as to where we go down the road. So clearly, we will deal with the issue. We're not going to set it aside because it went down 2-1. So come back to us and we'll figure something out along the way. That clear with everyone?
Yeah.
Uh,
Just to make the process a little smoother. It would seem to me that it'd be a good idea to appoint Mulligan as chairman of this group.
I will leave it to that group to find the
Okay.
leader.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Let's move along. Let's do the tennis membership thing. Let's start with Brownie and his tennis report, and then we'll have a discussion.
Okay. Feel like at this point, we cover enough other issues that no one else wants, we don't need another issue to discuss, but anyway, the tennis committee did meet, came up with our mission and vision, which Paul had asked for. A lot of discussion about the recent changes. I won't go through, I assume everybody read what I sent yesterday, so I won't bother to read the whole thing. But the main point is, what Paul has been experiencing is he had basically 6 people who had visited, who were on the fence, who didn't join. He's had little activity on requesting information versus normal. And he's had some feedback from other pros about knowing about the cap and the doing away with amenities at Sterling Oaks. So as a result, over the last 2.5 months, there's not been a lot of activity. To give you Paul did say we do have 2 new non-resident members, although there's been more like the 6 that we turned down and not as many requests. So, and the other thing, I gave you some
Use your
data,
glasses?
and we're still trying to get more data.
Use your glasses.
There are other options out there that are competitive. I'll
Huh?
give you some here. One thing I should mention in all fairness, Bonita Beach and Tennis, of course, is still closed. But I should put their information on
Are
what
these yours?
it was before and what I assume it'll probably be when they go back. But do understand one of the reasons that our non-resident is up is we got a number of members from Bonita Beach and Tennis and Tarpon Cove and some of the other clubs that did have damage because of the hurricane. Always a possibility that, you know, that some of those members will go back to those clubs when things get, you know, operating again. But that's, again, an uncertainty. But overall, there's a lot of uncertainty. And what we've seen yet, we feel like that we will not have as much interest in non-resident memberships, and that as time goes on, it will gradually go down. Now, we don't know that for sure, but the indications are,
How you
if you
feeling?
look at it realistically, we basically increased, included the $50 and the 10%. We've increased the fees about 12 or 13% in the last year for non-residents. And we took away for new non-residents all the amenities. So that's a pretty drastic change. Now, of course, that's what at least some part of the community wants. They want that to happen. In other words, they basically want to do away with non-resident tennis members. So I think the board really has to make a decision, you know, do we want to have non-resident tennis members to help support the tennis program and also help support the overall, or, you know, long-term is our objective to really essentially get down to a pretty low number of non-residents, if none at all, okay? So I think the board needs to look at that. Now, specifically, as I mentioned, for the 2024 budget, I'm pretty certain right now that once these memberships run out that we got from this year, and what will happen is in early 2024, the income will still be there from the non-resident members because we divide it up over the 12 months. But then come about next April, at the end of the season, we will suddenly have a big drop in non-resident income. And for that last 7 or 8 months of the year, we're likely to have very little new income from non-residents. Now, one of the good things is probably all of our non-residents, or many of our non-residents now, will have a greater incentive to keep their memberships. And maybe our attrition will not be as, you know, our turnover will not be as great. But Paul pointed out, as an example, in 2021, we actually had like 121 members who actually left. And of course, there were new members that came in. So if we get that type of attrition in the future and don't get the type of new applicants, we could gradually go down to a pretty low level where, if anything, we would have no, quote, profit from the program, or even get to the point where we'd be running in a deficit. So that kind of summarizes all what I wrote up. So as a result, the tennis committee, again, wanted me to make the motion, which I will make, that all new non-resident tennis members shall have the same access to all amenities as do current all new non-resident members. Note that current non-resident tennis members are restricted to 1 guest for all amenities from November 1st through April 30th. Now, that's the motion I just made. I don't know if I'll get a second. I support the motion. I think it is something we will need to do. I'll be very honest. Whether or not, whether or not it needs to be done today or it needs to be done next summer when we start really falling off, I don't know. But anyway, so this first question, anyone second that motion so we can have more discussion about the issue?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Now we're open for discussion. Mark, I would like you to read the minutes of the May 17th meeting, please.
Me? What?
I would like Mark to read or Cezanne the minutes of the May 17th meeting regarding tennis.
All right, I've got them right here. This is May 17th. This is a new business. Non-resident tennis membership, continued current use rights excluding guests. Motion, all current non-resident tennis memberships, old, would keep access to the amenities that they currently have now and upon continuous renewal. Made by Paul Goodrow, seconded by Brownie. Vote was in favor, 7, nay, Swallen and Snyder. Motion passes. Motion, restrict non-resident tennis members to 1 guest for all of the amenities from November through April. Brownie Fuqua, second Rick Sanders, vote 7, 2 nays, Calucci and Mara, motion passes. The next is new non-resident tennis membership use rights. Motion, tennis only memberships will begin June 1st. Sanders, second, Fuqua. Chap Calucci at that time left the meeting. The vote was unanimously approved after that point in time.
Okay, thanks. My concern is that we invested much time and energy into the strategic plan, and we gave conceptual approval to all its tenants. To me, the strategic plan was very clear. In my earlier remarks, I shared with you the focus group remarks. And I don't have to read all of that to you. It's in front of you. They're not happy with non-resident tennis people. Now, I understand they're very important to the tennis program. I do not feel as Brownie that we're going to have a cataclysmic turn down of the membership. I think it's going to increase. I think the cap is going to help us, and the cap is actually irrelevant, except to the point that we can tell the community that we have a cap. I don't care where the cap is. I just want to be able to tell my neighbors that we have a cap on non-resident tennis players. That's what they want to hear. Now, in terms of the membership, it's very early in the season. I've been part of this program for 20 some years. You do not get a huge influx of membership at this time of year. You do in the fall of the year when people start returning. That's when it happens. So I don't agree that we're going to have an abysmal turn down in the membership. I think the membership is going to increase. The minute you say there's a cap, people will see it as being more desirable, and they're going to start flowing into this program. The program is very solid. There is no place else to go in this whole Southwest Florida area that can compete with Sterling Oaks and the number of memberships that we have, the number of courts that we have, and the program that we have. So I don't see that as faltering at all. So my other point is the board made these decisions after much consideration, and we passed these things back in May. And to go back at this point, to me, seems that it does not serve the community and it doesn't serve the board well. So I'll leave the rest of the discussion with the rest of you at this point.
Let me respond to that, Paul. Your statement that there's nothing else in Southwest community, I gave you some data. There are some other options. Look at the number of courts. Most of them have 9, 10, 15, 12 courts. So that statement I don't agree with. Okay, there are other options. Now, particularly right
They
now,
have those courts, Brownie,
Let me finish.
but they also have an initiation
Let me
fee up to
finish.
50,000.
Paul, let me finish, okay?
Go ahead.
Now, Bonita Beach and Tennis is down right now. We have a number of their members. It's a question of whether or not they'll go back when it gets there. The other concern I have is, very frankly, Lanny Willer did that survey a year ago about usage of amenities actually by tennis members, which showed it was not very significant. Cezanne was involved with that, a very detailed study with a lot of data. And I have trouble with the focus groups. I would like to see how many people attended the focus groups, how many different people there were, and how many that really, what percentage of our community that feedback really represents. We just had a petition for 29 people to put a wall up that we turned down. I doubt if there were 29 people at the focus groups who were that hot about doing away with non-resident tennis players, okay? So I also question what data you're using on disregarding the study that they did on the use of amenities, and at the same time putting so much weight basically on focus groups, which are very subjective, and you only get the few people who are very anti whatever the item is they're going to bring up. So I have some concerns. As a matter of fact, maybe we need to have a survey and ask a specific question about how people really feel about this. And I don't think it's a big thing for most of the people in the communities to worry about.
See, I think that's the danger right there. If you don't recognize the fact that people are concerned about this, the board is faltering. And the focus groups happen to be 7 focus groups, Brownie, over a period of time.
But every person in the focus group didn't bring this item up. I want to see the data on how many people brought this up.
Let me finish. And you had that opportunity when Schoenfeld presented all this information through the strategic plan and told us the community was concerned about this. He went through 7 focus groups, and we have that empirical data telling us, be aware of this, be concerned about this. We can't ignore it. That's my concern. And why bother having a strategic plan if we're going to say it's not worth anything and I don't believe it? That's one concern. As far as other communities are concerned, in tennis courts availability, yes, there are a number of facilities that have many tennis courts. However, they also have initiation fees, some ranging from $50,000 a year, some ranging $60,000, some.
None of these I listed have initiation
Let me
fees.
finish, Brownie. Let me finish.
Well, you made a statement that the ones I listed do not have
Brownie,
initiation
I let
fees.
you finish your discussion. Let me finish. There are others, many of them have initiation fees.
That's
You're not
reason-
going to go there. Brett, can I finish? Now, not only do they have initiation fees, they charge a lot more than we charge to get in there. And do they offer amenities? Yes, some do, but at a great cost to these individuals.
That's the reason I don't have them on this list, Paul. Look
Brownie,
at the data. The ones
can
I
you-
listed, that's not true
Can
for
you
them. I left them on
control
the list.
yourself? Can you control yourself, please?
Well, I can't control stuff when you said and basically not giving the truth there. In other words, those are irrelevant. They are not the ones that I said that were competitive. They're not competitive, the ones that have initiation fee. I agree with you. They're not competitive.
The point I'm making is where are these people going? They're not going anywhere else, Brownie. You said that there are scare tactics going on that said we're going to lose our membership and our population. I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that because they're not going anywhere else. We have the best program in town and the best facilities. They're not going anywhere else. In fact, I would suspect that our membership is going to increase. Anyone, chat?
This will surprise Paul, but I'm going to go ahead. The issue here is where do you want to take the risk? In other words, if you believe Brownie and you pass and you don't pass the motion, what you're risking is some revenue, right, Brownie?
Yeah,
You're
that's
risking.
that's what we need to realize.
Okay, you're risking some revenue. Now, I'm going to take a shot at it, and please don't argue with me. Let's say it's $50,000 is what you're risking, okay? Now, the risk on the other side is if you pass it and you listen to Paul's argument, and you listen to the focus groups, and as an aside, I think the focus groups are a little overblown. But in any way, if you listen to Paul, the risk you're taking is you piss off a lot of people in the community who thought that we had the situation under control, okay? Now, what I'm interested in, frankly, is keeping it the way it is now, with the exception of, and I've been on this horse for a long time, if I can see no reason to deny these members dining privileges as well as meaning dining and tiki bar. I see no reason to deny that. So that's all I have to say.
Well, I would agree with you. I don't have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with that in particular. I have an issue with the impact that the non-resident tennis people, at least the perceived impact they have in our community.
That's what I said.
I don't see food and beverage as a big issue here. That would help us. It would help them. It's a minor kind of thing. But allowing them into the pool area, that's where people go bananas. That's where they go crazy. Allowing them on the pickleball courts, allowing them on the bocce areas. Our people in the residents are saying, we paid for these amenities. We pay dues monthly to support all of this. And then these outside residents come in and we can't get seats and blah, blah. You know the whole story. That's the concern I have there. And I don't think a non-resident member comes into Sterling Oaks to play tennis. If you take away their access to the bocce court, that's not going to affect their ability to come by and sign up as a tennis member. That's my issue. And I think it's a scare tactic at this point to say, yes, it is a gamble and it is a risk, but it is every year. Every year it's a risk. We lose 100 and some people every year. And people say, oh God, will we ever recoup? We have. You know what? Last year was the highest membership we've ever had, the very highest. So yeah, every year we're bound to lose members, and we do, but we always recruit also. Mm-hmm. So I don't see that as John Mulligan. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got two things. One is definitely they should have dining privileges. I mean, that's silly. And I know we said we passed without no amenities, but I thought we're also going to address that one. But still, it also seems to me that the tennis committee, and Brian in particular, is talking both sides of your mouths. You're saying that the non-resident tennis members never use any of the amenities. Okay. Now we're saying we took them away, but now they're not coming because we took them away. What is it? Is it they don't use it or we took away their using it. So that's an argument you can't have both ways.
I can answer that, John.
Good point.
I can answer that. Think about yourself. I think I'll use myself as an example. I don't go to the pool very often. I don't play pickleball. I don't play bocce. But if we passed a thing for some reason that certain members couldn't have access to it, or if I were to join a club and I didn't have those privileges when other people did, it would still affect my choice. People like to have the choice. It doesn't mean they use it. I like the fact that Sterling Oaks has bocce and pickleball and the dining and all of that, and the pool, but I don't necessarily use it. And that was really addressed. In other words, people have to look at what they have access to, and maybe they don't use the pool but once or twice a year when their family visits or something like that, but you still like to have that. Or maybe they have somebody that visits that plays pickleball. So I think that's the thing that the survey showed, that despite that, the fact that I think people want it, the non-members don't use it that much. And I think if you think about belonging to a club, you might belong to a club and not use all the facilities. It would still affect your choice of what club you might join.
All of that is true, Brownie. I don't argue with that at all. And I would want access to all the amenities, but you know who it does bother? It's your neighbors. And that's who we have to represent here as a board member. It's fine for non-resident tenants. Sure, they want everything. It would make sense to me, buy into it. Easier to recruit. I understand where the tenants committee is coming from, but our neighbors do not like that. They don't like that at all. And if we're not responsive to them, why are we sitting on this board?
Let me say this, I've been on 6 years now. I've never had a single person directly come to me and complain about non-resident tennis members. Maybe I've been in the wrong places. Okay.
Years ago, I had a dozen people or more
Maybe
complain
other than
about
you,
it.
Paul.
This is not a new issue. Linda.
As Mark read that, there was a discrepancy between the way Brownie read it, as they understood it, and as you read it, or as Mark read it. Are you saying that non-resident tennis people now, what rights do they have?
They can play
Usage?
tennis.
No, the new one, the old ones.
The
Well,
old
the old
members,
ones have all the access and rights they've had before. It's a continuation of their agreements that they've had in the past.
So they can have guests.
they can have guests, but only one guest during the season.
Right.
New tennis, non-resident tennis members can play tennis. That's all they can do, period.
Okay, so
And we will discuss whether or not they have access to food and beverage. That's kind of on the table.
right. So if they have access, and they should have, I would hope they would have access to food and beverage and would be able to bring a guest to food and beverage, because you don't sign up to go to dinner and tell your wife you're headed off to the club for dinner, but she can't come. At least I don't think that'd go well in my house. I don't know about yours, but.
Yeah, but your neighbor doesn't care. Your neighbor cares about the fact that if you're from Spanish Wells and you're going to bring half of Spanish Wells over to Sterling Oaks to enjoy their amenities, that's what your neighbor gets upset about.
Then perhaps the new members can have one guest. I know.
We can
Susan
discuss
Bonnet,
these things. Currently, they have no guests.
I
We can
know.
discuss this down the road, but my reaction would be we're going contrary to what our neighbors are asking.
Could you have John Mulligan give us an idea how much revenue tennis brings into food and beverage? presently? Is that possible?
Go ahead, John.
I think Cezanne had looked at that once, didn't you, Cezanne?
So Mark or John, can you respond to that?
Yeah,
Cezanne.
I can get something. I have a report that they ran for me. I just have to find it and everything, but it's substantial. Once again, I think they should have access to food and beverage, and as Lindy was saying, one guest should be able to come with them to food and beverage. Because she said, you're gonna go by yourself to all these things? That's silly.
Well,
I got a
Suzanne
question.
had some issues that she brought up, which I agree with. How do you have them access to food and beverage and not have access to the pool? In other words, if the people at the pool and the non-resident tennis members can go in to use the cabana, then they have to have access to the pool. They will still be taking up chairs, maybe eating or something. So I don't see how we can really give them access to food and beverage and not have access to the pool.
Let me answer that, Ronnie.
Would you-
Figure that out, but let me go to
How would you
Rick.
handle that?
Rick has had his hand up for a while.
Yeah.
Let me go to Rick.
So I've changed my tune a little bit based on the feedback from the tennis office and the committee about these new members, prospective new members deciding not to join. First of all, I guess I'm a little puzzled, and again, I bought into this, but Paul, I think when we first presented this program, you indicated it would start January of 2024. That was my recollection of it. Somewhere along the line, it morphed to June. And basically what we've done in the last 2.5 months is lost revenue, where we've got amenities that are open. We could have capitalized on new members and gotten revenue now. I would at least minimally ask to pause this thing until January and at least capture 4.5 more months of revenue, because I see no reason just to turn people away. And I think we were a little bit jumping the gun executing this in June. And again, I'm guilty of it because I approved it too. But based on this new information coming in, I think we're foolish if we don't present this as an opportunity to people to join the club for the next 4.5 months. Because the amenities are open right now, all of them.
Yeah, I think some of that would work, because I think that would help prove my point that you're not going to get a big influx of people anyway. So I wouldn't have an issue with that as long as the original motions are in place as we go down the road.
Ken's got it. You're muted, Ken.
Ken Swollen?
Am I on?
Yes.
You're on.
Okay. I don't think we should change what we already passed. The community knows we passed it. Leave it go for a year and then see what the results are. We have no idea what the true results are going to be. Right now, we're just discussing, well, this might happen, this might happen. We don't know what will happen until we use it for 1 year and leave it in place for a year. We have no idea what it's going to impact. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Anyone else? I having trouble seeing hands here.
I just have one comment to Lindia. In 2023, year to date, the non-resident tennis members have brought in almost 51,000 in the F&B operations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we expect that will continue. We want it to. All right, any other comment? Okay, we have a motion on the table.
Well, I got one more comment, Paul.
Go ahead.
What we're dealing with here is diminishing returns then. Because every new member we get is not bringing anything into food and beverage. And
Right?
every old member that leaves or retires or dies or moves or gets hurt, we are losing that money's from food and beverage. So
Well, we
I
can,
just-
we can make that adjustment.
point.
We could add the food and beverage access.
Yeah,
No problem with that. Chap,
no, I was just gonna say the same thing. Linda, we can fix, we can easily fix the food and beverage part of it after this vote.
right,
We'll have a
all right. Cezanne, you want to read the motion?
The motion that all new non-resident tennis memberships shall have the same access to all amenities as do the current old non-resident tennis members. Note, current non-resident tennis members are restricted to one guest for all amenities from November through April every year.
Okay. All right, so everyone understands the motion. Do we have, I hear something in the background. Do we have a question?
No, what you're hearing
Okay.
is the people that are listening to the YouTube. I think you just need to make sure that the board as a whole truly understands what they're doing. Just like Rick said, you know, the board voted unanimously in May, but has since then has had thoughts or questions about what it really meant. So I think even though the motion that Cezanne just read, I think you have to really understand what does it do to the existing motion that's in place that was what was passed on that date in May. Are you rescinding the motion or are you changing it to
Essentially,
amend?
that's rescinding the motion.
Right, yes.
That's essentially
Yeah.
what this motion
Yeah.
does.
The old motion.
Right, and that's my concern.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what Brownie's suggesting is that all new members get all the benefits that the old members have.
Right.
And that's pretty much
Keep
bottom
Going
line.
back to where we were, and don't forget, there's one important, we still have the 350 cap. So in response to about controlling that, we're not proposing to get rid of the 350 cap. And by the way, currently, I think our number of non-resident tennis members is at 315 was the number that, isn't that right, Suzanne? I think, anyway, that was a number that Paul had on, at the tennis meeting, 315. So we do have the cap still.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cap will never reach the cap. And that's the whole point. The point is that we tell the community we have a cap. And at 350, that'd be a great problem to have. We're never going to reach it.
So the motion is giving them all access to all the amenities that we don't want them to have,
Right.
Is to go back to what it was before June.
which is exactly what I just said. So, okay.
And it
Right.
essentially rescinds the May motion.
Yeah, in other words, new members keep what the old members have. Okay.
And
Right.
let's vote on that.
And that's the problem I have with this. And let's say we can go back and let's say we keep the original motion, we can go back and make adjustments for food and beverage and the time frame that Rick was talking about. We can always
Yes.
adjust that.
Yes.
All right, let's call for the vote. All those in favor of Brownlee's motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Come on. Good boy.
Okay, who do we have?
Half
Cezanne.
the days.
I see Fuqua, Sanders.
Okay. All those who are against the motion signify by saying nay. Nay.
Nay.
Nay.
Nay.
You have that, Cezanne?
Lydia, how did you vote?
I
didn't
have
see-
that. Motion fails 2-6.
As written, I'm saying nay.
Okay, I didn't see your hand.
I'm
Okay,
going to be looking for amendments or something.
okay.
Yeah,
All right.
we can deal with
Let
that
me-
another
Let me
time.
quickly go through the rest of mine before we talk about the modification. The motion two is really irrelevant since we didn't pass the first one. So I plan on not making that motion, okay? That motion in essence is just applying the 350 cap to only Sterling. But that's really irrelevant without passing the first one. The third motion though is, which is not a tennis thing, but it came up because one of the tennis members has been posting social media, on social media using the Sterling Oaks logo. So we felt that the board should officially restrict that. So the motion would be that no person and entity other than the Sterling Oaks Board of Directors or General Manager shall make any social media post of any kind, including statements, offerings, comments, or other on behalf of or in any way representing the community. And specifically, this includes prohibiting the use of the Sterling Oaks logo. And that would apply not just to tennis, but any issue.
So I think we have an issue of free speech versus proprietary rights. And
It doesn't prevent them from speaking, it just prevents them from representing the community and using the logo.
yeah, and I guess that's the question. How do we know when they're doing that and when they're not? And whether or not they're doing it personally or representing the community? How do we know that?
It's,
Well, if they use the logo, it implies it represents the community, and that's really.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm wondering if we should get something from Jason to give us some guidance here. I don't know if we can just,
you can do that. It's just like you see on the bottom of these emails from everybody. These emails are intended for the use of the person to dot. Use rights of those, of these logos of this content are not allowed. No, I think the board is well within its rights to be able to make sure that the residents are not allowed to represent themselves as Sterling Oaks in any fashion on social media platforms, whether or not it's in advertising, whether or not it's their own business. They should be able to go ahead and take the Sterling Oaks logo and say, I represent Sterling Oaks, and I'm letting you know that you've got to do this or that, or because I've got the logo right here. So I think Brownie's motion pretty much succinctly says that they're not allowed to use it, especially when it's being used to create falsehoods and problems within the community.
Is the logo
an
trademark?
infraction, that we consider something an infraction. What can the board do about it?
Is the logo trademark?
Well, if we pass this, it becomes a regulation. If someone does it and uses the logo, we could fine them $100 and suspend them. You have the right, it's breaking a rule or regulation. That's what we could do, Paul.
Okay.
I have a comment.
Yes, go ahead. Rick?
I don't know if everyone knows the background on this. This was for Ed Kakila, who has a Facebook page, which I think actually reflects Sterling Oaks Tennis Club. I'm not certain it's a community, it's tennis club. And in all fairness to Ed is an ambassador for new members here and helping out tennis people, and he gets new people involved. I think his intentions were very good, but the law of unintended consequences here came along with a lot of misinformation on with the cap, and then consequently with the
other stuff going on.
hello. Okay.
You're good, Rick.
Consequently, there was a lot of misinformation, a lot of negatives and comments about how we were going to raise prices, and it really just cascaded into a mess. I think I'm principled. I understand about the intellectual property and representing himself as a member, as a director here or a decision maker. I guess before we put the hammer down on it, I would prefer to offer him the opportunity to change the name to, we'll say, Friends of Sterling Oak, rather than using the community or the tennis club. And maybe offer him to do that. If he's not happy with that, then we should go ahead and take some more firm action. I guess I'm assuming he's the only one that's going to be
Well, I
using.
don't look at
doing
this
this.
as directed.
I was going to make, let's not
specifically
assume that it's any given person. I don't think we should be discussing personalities here. But
Yeah.
if we consider this motion, let's consider it as a global motion to protect the interest of Sterling Oaks.
Yeah, that's my point. That happens to have brought up, an individual happens to brought up this issue. But it is an issue, I think, I agree with Paul, that the global issue, we don't want anyone doing it, okay? The fact that one did it might have brought the issue up, but that's not who this is directed at specifically.
Chad?
My point was that his intention was good.
I think that we should table this for now. I think we should go to Jason and get his opinion. And at a minimum, I think we should have Jason trademark our logo.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Lynn.
What exactly do you mean by logo? What are you talking about?
The tree.
Trademark, brand.
So, the trademark of the tree is a requirement to put on for sale signs in Sterling Oaks with the logo. I pay to have those made up with that logo on it. So you want to be careful we don't knock everything out of here, but that's been the expectation of every realtor who has a property for sale in Sterling Oaks, to avoid random mishmash of signs.
You would have got me good. You would have got me good.
Okay, Rick, did you have another comment?
No, that was all. My point was that the gentleman who did the post, his intentions always been very good.
Yeah,
Is that?
that's right. Okay.
Yeah, you got a lot of feedback coming back from you, like your TV or something. I would just say that if you do want to go to Jason, that's fine.
Yeah, I think the best, can I make the motion to table this until Jason reviews the wording?
Okay, that makes sense to me.
In other words, I'll make a motion to table this until Jason reviews how we should handle this. Somebody.
Okay, Chap, will you second that?
Yeah, sure. I second it.
Okay, all in favor of this motion to table, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this motion carries. We'll revisit this down the road. I think it's wise to get some legal expertise behind this. Okay, very good. Brownie, just a question, Brownie. What was the issue with the cap? What was the concern or concept with it?
What do you mean?
You said you had a
Concept
second
was
motion that you
basically
decided
presented-
not to present.
That second motion, in essence, would change, the cap is written to be all non-resident members. Which is
Yeah,
350.
what's the issue?
The only option we have.
They wanted to make the cap only for Sterling, so if someone applied and there wasn't a position, we could still offer them an Oaks. So in essence, it would be not counting Oaks in the 350. It's not a real big deal. There's only 6 Oaks non-resident members anyway. But that's, to me, it's a complication that not worth considering, really.
Yeah, They'll
The way
never
it
reach.
stands
the
now,
cap.
the 350 is on all non-residents, if you read the motion that was passed.
Right, right, right.
In
Okay.
essence, the motion would change the 350 just to Sterling and allowed you to give an Oaks to someone that was over 350.
Yeah,
And
okay.
I frankly think it would just complicate things and it's not worth it
Right.
for the number of
Right.
those members anyway.
I agree. We'll never reach that cap. If we do, well, that's a great problem for us.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's irrelevant if we don't get to the cap.
Right. Okay, let's move on. We have a new business communication committee.
And
We,
we didn't address the question that some of you won't of allowing food and beverage to these new non-residents. We need to discuss that. And again, we need to deal with how we allow them to have food and bev, but not have access to the pool.
how about if we asked Linda and John Mulligan to come back to us with a recommendation for a future board meeting on both of those issues?
Okay, okay.
Okay,
Will John and Linda agree?
Sure.
And make sure Suzanne gets involved because she has to deal with the cards and.
Right, I'll leave that to the two on the ad hoc committee.
Yeah, so make
And
sure. Suzanne-
also consider Rick Sanders' concern about moving this, starting maybe at a little later date.
Thank you.
If maybe 2 months or so would affect anything along the way. That would give us a little meter in terms of, well, something. Okay,
Paul,
It's actually 4.5.
Paul,
Yeah,
with the new members, are they getting the same cards as the old members? Or could they have?
New members
they-
are not getting, as of today, new members are not getting a membership card.
They
So
don't
they
need
can't
it,
get in the
they only
gates?
play tennis.
You get a barcode to get in the gate. You don't get a membership card. As of today, there's no reason why a new member needs a membership card.
Unless they want to
Okay.
go to the pool, maybe, right?
They can't go to the pool.
No, I mean, not the pool, but cabana.
They
yeah,
can't
that's
go
what
to
you're
the
going to figure out, Lynn. You and John are going to figure that out.
Yes,
That's the issue.
okay. I just wanted to know if they had different cards. Okay,
And once we go
Okay.
to Cabana, they're using a chair in the pool. They could use a chair. in the pool.
Well, that's what we have to sort out. We have to sort those details out. Okay, let's go to Communications Committee. We need to establish a Communications Committee because we did not have one or did not establish one at the annual meeting or shortly thereafter. So I'm going to recommend that we establish a Communications Committee that will be designed to carry out the guidelines in the strategic plan, first of all, and then secondly, I have a chairperson to recommend. So I will make the motion to establish a communications committee at Sterling Oaks as a standing committee. So I need a second.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion about that? I will just remind you that we had significant feedback from the community that we were not doing a good job with communications and that we needed to beef up our activities in that regard. So to that end, through the strategic plan, we all mapped out a number of things that we need to do this year. So we will move ahead with that through this committee. So I need all in favor of this motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
aye.
Any opposed?
Chap, say aye. Chap's
Chap,
on.
Chap's around.
Okay, so did he step out?
I think so, just for a minute.
Okay, any opposed? No.
There he
So-
is.
Yeah,
Back.
vote aye for the communication committee. We need your vote.
The motion is to establish a communication committee of the board.
Yeah, okay.
You agree?
Yeah,
Okay.
Sure.
So we have a unanimous approval. Secondly, I would like to nominate Lynn Frankel as chair of the communications committee. She will come back to us with a slate of people that will populate that committee and carry out the guidelines as per the strategic plan.
should be
So-
terrific. I second that.
Second that. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
I assume she's agreed already, Paul, right?
As she will, if asked, serve.
Okay.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, unanimously carried. So Lynn will be the new chair of the communications committee. In your packet, you'll see some things that are mapped out. This represents the annual plan that I've asked for each committee. This can serve as an outline for you as you develop your own annual plans for the board. Now, you'll notice that front and forward are chat sessions. We agreed in the strategic plan to have at least 2 chat sessions for each board member during the course of the year. Lynn will put together how that is going to be run. She and the committee will do the lion's share of the grunt work for you in terms of setting it up, taking notes, making sure things are clear, developing materials and so forth. It's all here in front of you. I don't need to read that to you. She will also create an electronic packet, a short printed quarterly newspaper, Lindia, and a printed brochure, Lindia, to welcome new residents and educate the entire community. She'll design the welcoming packet and start dealing with new member orientations and generally serve as a good neighbor and organize a group to welcome new people. Also, it's not part of the packet that I gave you, but another thing we will introduce, and Lynn, if you're listening,
I am.
a lunch and learn session with speakers, much like some of you have been in Rotary and Kiwanis and that sort of thing in the past. It'll be a similar sort of thing where we'll invite an expert in and have lunch in the clubhouse and have that expert talk about things like what's the difference between an HOA and a condo association, and what's the role of the board in a community. Maybe bring the auditor in that we have every year that's quite entertaining and has a load of information to share with us. We might have experts, health experts come in to talk about the PT and so forth. And we could also do something on the strategic plan to map out where we are and where we're going, let's say mid-year. So those are the kinds of things we'll do in the communications committee. Let this document represent an outline for you as you fill out your own annual plan for your respective committees. So any questions about that?
Yeah. Who's the board liaison for this committee?
I am. I will be. You made me do it at the last meeting.
Okay, good.
Okay, next item, access to amenities for immediate family. Mark, I'm going to let you lead this one.
All right, so we've had having an enormous amount of issues with the QR code that goes on people's phones, and currently the QR code looks like this on your phone, and we send it by email to immediate family members, and they can use it at the white boxes, at the pool, and at the fitness center. For whatever reason, this on your phone works sometimes, doesn't work other times. Sometimes people don't know how to use it correctly. They try to screenshot it. They don't open the PDF correctly. There's a lot of problems with it. We just, in fact, yesterday, the QR code boxes went out. We had to get a hold of TEM to try to reset the system. And we couldn't do it internally. It had to be done remotely. So people were asking how to get in the pool. These are families. So what we did is we started researching an opportunity to change that up and go to something like this. And this is just a wristband that goes on your wrist. And when you go up to the access control reader at the pool, whether it's any of the 4 gates. Now, currently, the QR code only works by the cabana entrance. This here works as a Prox card reader for anyone going to the pool area or the fitness from the 2 fitness readers at the door or at the bottom of the stairs here, or all 4 pool gates. It also, once you put it on, of course, and you're walking into the pool, you're going to be immediately known as family member. So this would also dispel a lot of the rumors about who the heck is that in the pool area. This would do it. It's waterproof. You can wear it in the pool. It would be on for 1 week, because that's what this QR code currently, we send it to your email. It's good for 1 week, and then it expires. This is also a problem with individuals because they don't understand how come it can go away. I don't have anything. Now I have to send an email to my phone. I didn't bring my phone with me, et cetera, et cetera. These we can get. We would like to propose that, and you see it in your packet. I think that there's we drew up a fairly succinct report. The HID wristbands may be purchased in the club office by an immediate family of a homeowner and approved tenants. Individual must come into the club office, obtain the wristband, presenting their photo ID so that we know that they are truly a member of the family. And they have to be on the permanent guest list, which is no different than what we do right now with a QR code. We have to have that identification, verification. The wristband has a one-time cost of $20. It's good for this week. It's good for 2 months from now. It's good for 6 weeks next year. It's good at any point in time. You can leave it in your house. And when your kids come back, you tell them to go down to the office with your wristband, because on the back, I doubt if you can see it, but there's a number on the back here. This one says 20002. That tells us that it belonged to Jamie Smith. Hi, Jamie, how are you? Thank you for coming back in. We activate this and they walk down to the pool and they can go in any gate they want or downstairs into the fitness, rather than trying to figure out how to get their QR code to work on the 2 white boxes. That honestly, last season, part of the problem we had with customer service was the inability for us to be able to get the QR code to work when the family members wanted to go to the pool. And all they had to do was yell and scream over the pool and say, "Let me in," which caused pool individuals to say, "Who are you?" And they didn't have any verification of doing it. If you don't want to purchase one of these, then the homeowner or tenant must accompany the family member or guest just as they do now. So this is partially a response to the problems that were caused by the QR codes, partially a strategic plan initiative to assist in helping out the quality of service that we can give. And 3, it helps in the pool area for the pool people who are always watching what's going on, not to name anybody, they'll know that when they see this wristband on any individual, they go, that's family, not non-resident tennis. Because everybody that's in the pool that they don't know, of course, is a non-resident tennis member, according to the rumor mill. So we're asking that you approve this new device, the cost, and the implementation of this to assist us as we move into this season to provide better customer service, better tracking, better identification with immediate family members.
I need a board member to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay,
What's the timeline on it, Mark? When would it be available?
Today,
Today?
this one works. I had it put in, Laura put it in for me. So I went around all the pool gates, checked it all out.
Sweet.
Works like a charm.
okay, Brownie, will you second that?
Yeah, I'll second it, but I have a question.
Go ahead.
Mark, what's the actual cost to us for that?
These cost about, I think, about $7.50 a piece.
We're charging $20.
It's
One-time cost.
Okay,
it's $20 for a barcode, $20 for a barcode, and we do the exact same thing. It's the same situation. Now, what this is though is if you get a new car, you got to buy a new barcode. If you put this on and you decide to come back at Christmas, you can use this again. There is no charge. It's a one-time charge. So this can last for years.
I would vote against this on the basis that we're making money on it. In other words, if it costs us $7.50.
Well, you're also
charge a family member $20.
And you know what? You're using up my administrative's time. I don't have anybody in here other than that. And then when the onslaught hits its season, you know what we get? We get the customer service is so poor in the office. They aren't helping us out at all. So what we are trying to do is not only maintain the integrity of the situation, and $20 for all access resort pass to amenities at a club is a small price to pay.
But this is less trouble administratively than getting the QR code though. So
Not really. You still have to go to the same situation, the same screens, the same issue.
Yeah, and we don't charge for the QR code, okay?
That's correct.
Administrative time is in our budget, certain amount of
That's
minutes.
because there's no personal.
We do.
Mark.
We shouldn't charge
You got to understand something. I don't care. It's your place. It's your money. Just what we're trying to do is trying to figure out a way to maintain the integrity of the system. But it has to have a value, because if it doesn't have any value, then it's not worth it. And guess what? If this is no money,
Are you still on your meeting?
there
Yes.
it is. I threw it away, and we're buying more.
Well, the other
You had to
option
pay
is
for it.
to have it
Now you're going to keep it.
$20 deposit, you turn it in, you don't keep it. So
Nope.
that'd be-
I'm not gonna have this after you've been wearing it on your wrist.
Okay.
Who knows what's going
All
on?
right.
I'm not gonna
All
give you
right.
your money back.
Mark,
Do we have a second on this?
Yeah, Brownie seconded it.
Oh,
can
yeah,
I
Brownie
ask
seconded.
a question?
Yes, I have a comment first.
I
Brownie,
gotta go,
there's
I gotta go
value in
sing.
this. Brownie, there's value in this. You can buy it as a Christmas present for your relatives when they come
There you
in.
go.
So, Linda, go ahead.
Yeah, I gotta go because I'm on my way to Bentley to sing, but my question is, what if your kids come in on Friday night at 4:00 and they can't get it activated and they're only here for the weekend, which a lot of people have family come for a short period of time? Whew, it's worthless. Right?
So you're saying, they appear without notice, and then they pop in and then they want to use the place. We have Nikki here on Friday nights to, at any point in time, all they have to do is come in and let us know. Nikki can show them that. we have people here on Saturday and Sundays to be able to do that as well.
Okay, so there are people there all the time then to activate it.
Every Friday night, Nikki's here. She does barcodes. and
No,
things
I'm talking
there.
about Saturday.
Saturday,
Saturday?
the crew is in here as well. I mean, are they gonna come in at 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturday? No.
No, but they're going to be there Saturday, all day Saturday, because you know a lot of times people leave after work Friday, drive down for the
How are they
weekend to
gonna-
visit.
Okay, how are they gonna get a QR code?
I was just gonna say, it's the same.
They get no, it
QR
isn't. No, it isn't. If they know they're coming, they call. They send their license. You know how they do it. They send a copy of their license and their phone number, and Laura does it remotely.
Okay, and what happens when the QR code doesn't work, just like it did yesterday, when the people wanted to get in the
Just
pool?
like you'd said, they holler over the fence.
Well, then why are we doing it at all?
I know, but you say that, but like the back gate isn't working. We don't yank the back gate out just because the system isn't working.
I'm not saying it. There's a million permutations. All I'm trying to do is, in the middle of season, if you see these on people down in the pool, you're gonna go, hey, that's a family member.
Okay, my question
All right.
was, what do you do on weekends? That's when a lot of people have guests.
All they have
And
to
if
do
they
is
can
let us
get
know
it
ahead of time.
Saturday,
Listen,
Sunday,
gang,
no problem.
listen.
Let us know
Let's,
ahead of time. We'll have it sitting here waiting
these
for you.
things can be figured out. Let's vote on the conceptual approval of this motion. We'll figure out the details later.
You can pick this up in the tennis office. It opens at 7:30.
Paul,
As long as you went ahead and let us know ahead of time by letting us know who you are and what's going on, we can have these
Go ahead.
available.
can't vote on the conception without the details, because the details are what both
I gotta go.
Mary and I are worrying about. So if that's the case, I've got to vote against it, and I think Lydia was, because the details are the issue, not the conception. I don't have any trouble with conception, but I have trouble with the cost. I have the trouble with how you handle on a weekend. And
Well, these things we can figure out. They're minor details that we can figure out. Globally,
Not
we have
minor.
to decide whether this wristband concept is a good one or not. And if we all feel that it is good, it serves a purpose, and it's better than the current system, let's vote on that. We'll iron out how to get it and all the little quirks later. Any other discussion on this matter?
Question, what,
Go ahead, John.
okay, why would this work any bit better than QR codes?
Because the QR code reader is suspect. It does not work on a regular basis. And we've had major issues with the QR system. Plus, there's only 2 places that you can access the QR code reader. One's at the main gate of the pool and one's in the fitness center coming out of the locker rooms. These would allow you access so that if you came from around the corner and you came out of the gym or the locker room, okay, if you want to get in the pool right now and you're a guest and you come out of the locker rooms after going pee, you can't get back into the pool area unless you walk all the way around over behind the cabana and all the way out to the parking lot to get in back at the white box. Because there's no way to get in with a QR code. There's no other QR code reader. If you come out of the locker rooms at the bottom of the stairs, you're going to walk all the way around the pool, all the way around by the tot lot, all the way back around and put your phone underneath the reader to see if it'll work, and hopefully it'll open. This, you walk out of the locker rooms, go right up to the gate, open it up, and you're in the pool.
So,
I'm confused. We have a system that won't read the QR but one place, but yet it'll read this. How does it read this at all those places?
This is a prox
can I-
card. This
can
is
I
the same
chime
as your
in?
membership card.
Go ahead, Cezanne.
But we have readers that will.
Yeah, right now,
Go ahead.
right now we have 2 QR code readers. It's a totally different piece of equipment. In the club, we have 6 HID readers, 1 at each pool gate, 4, and 2 to access the fitness center, which is completely different piece of equipment than the QR readers. The QR reader,
Why do
I'm
we
sorry?
put the readers for this thing on all the things if we haven't been using it? Is it a different reader?
we do, membership cards, the membership cards with your pictures on them that are issued to homeowners and tennis members work, their Prox cards, they work on the HID readers. They don't work in the QR code box.
Same thing.
This would replace
Same thing.
the
Technology
QR code box.
on the wristband is the same technology as on your ID card.
Right. Perfect.
Right.
That's it.
Correct. The technology and the technology in your green wristband would work in the HID readers. So we're not maintaining and replacing two separate types of equipment now. We're only maintaining our HID readers, which we have to maintain for our membership access.
Is it
And
possible to
John Mulligan, this may have some promise for your little committee in terms of access for food and beverage for non-resident tennis members. Maybe that could be applied somehow. I don't know.
And these wristbands don't have to stay on the whole time. It's not like ripping them off. You could take them off anytime you want.
Right.
They go on.
Correct.
They go on just like this. They go through. You get a little thing like that.
Well, let me
And they
ask
are.
you this.
Comes apart.
And we have the option that if I buy one of these, if my son and daughter come at different times, I could use it for both. If they come in and identify themselves. and
Yeah.
come in the list.
Right.
Certainly. The cost to take it is why, because there's a cost associated with buying it, shipping it, and getting it here. But we can certainly sell one to the Fuqua residents. And then when your daughter comes, she brings the wristband, and we see that she physically is on your guest list and has the wristband, and we activate it for a week. Now, if your son comes, he could bring the same wristband up, and we can physically see he's on your guest list and activate it for a week for him.
Okay.
So
What a bargain.
that's fine.
That helps a little
We
bit.
just didn't, we talked about having, somebody returning it and using it for a different household, but the concept came up of this individual is probably going to be in the pool wearing sunscreen, their germs and everything's going to be on this wristband. I don't really want to give it to a different household. If you want to pass it amongst your own household for activation when your family members here, that's fine. But from getting it back from you to give it to the next person, it just might be in a not great sanitized condition.
Sounds like a good deal to
Paul?
me. Any further
Paul?
discussion?
Can
Yeah.
I ask
Suzanne,
one
thank
more
you.
question? I was out.
Oh, I
Um,
thought you left.
My ride is late. This is my question. I kind of missed this. You're saying that if somebody knows they're coming, they can call the office and get it activated?
Yes.
Okay,
Here's what they can do. They can go
Okay.
ahead. They email Laura. They say, "Hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm Bob Smith's daughter. I'm coming into town. I want to pick up my wristband on Saturday. Can you have it ready for me? Here's my picture of my ID." Yep, no problem. I'll have your ID and your wristband will be sitting in the Pro Shop office. If you just go to tennis in the morning when you come in at 7:30, Pro Shop open, and you can grab your bracelet at that time and go use the pool.
no, I meant activate it. Like if they already got one, but they
Oh.
need it activated.
They just have to send us the that information ahead of time. We'll act. They just give us the number on the back of it, and we can act.
Okay, that's what I want to know. Okay, thank you. That was my biggest concern.
Yeah.
Okay, let's call for the vote. Have we had enough discussion?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye,
Okay.
aye, aye.
Those who are opposed indicate by saying nay. Brownie?
He voted yes.
I
Okay,
voted yes because one
You
time-
answered all our questions.
passes unanimously. Very good. Okay,
Thank you, folks.
Suzanne, thank you for all your work.
Okay,
on
Mark, I'm removing myself from this meeting.
You got it. All right. Good
Phone
luck.
and the doctors.
All right. Thank you.
you.
okay, very good. That concludes our business. Am I right?
Yeah.
The Lake 3 sound box, I have to have, Steve Mara make
I'll take
a,
everybody out if there's a place to go.
Steve Morrow has to go ahead and make this motion to allow Alberto Bossi
Oh, yeah.
to
Dana's coming.
put in that box. And so here's the story behind it. We went ahead and we've tried to muffle the box. We put in a new box with insulation in it. We changed the motor out. Still was too loud. So we
For the car?
so we went ahead and we put up a sound wall. It was actually a piece of fencing to try to see if that blocked the noise. It did not sufficiently block the noise. So therefore, then that was taken down because of everybody didn't like the look. Then we had, then Alberto, I guess, went to Steve here and had given him this information saying, I'll build a box for you and install it to stop the incessant hum noise that's driving Jennifer crazy and his girlfriend, right? Pierce. And so therefore I said, well, if he's willing to spend the money on the materials and the box and everything else like that, we can just have our maintenance guy go over at some point in time when he's ready to install it, just to go ahead and make sure that he's got it done correctly. As I said in my report, I'm not really a fan of residents constructing items for the common area, but evidently this is a life or death type of situation for Alberto, and so I'm willing to make some compromises. Is that about right, Steve?
Isn't there, I mean, you have to have a Collier County permit to install an air conditioner or to move a tub or whatever in your own property. Doesn't that require some permit from Collier County?
I would doubt it. I would doubt it. And if he, well, Steve, why don't you say a little what's going on?
He came to the board a while ago with a noise problem, and this is Mark and I's attempt to keep working with him to try and get rid of it. I told him that if he wanted to build the box, it had to be through Mark's approval, and everything had to be approved through Mark. And he was willing, he's so fed up that he's willing to spend the money and try and build a box around it to get rid of the noise. And Mark and I, again, agreed that he would go over the specs and the dimensions and everything to do with the box with his approval, and then we would move forward. And I don't see any reason not to do it. He's adamant that this noise is driving him absolutely out of his mind. And I think we should go forward and let him do it. Again, under the blanket that Mark has final approval of anything that goes in and anything that is in that area.
Do we have any idea how the neighbors feel about this project?
When we put the fence in, the neighbors didn't like it. Mark put a section of stockade fence up and they didn't like that. But this box is going to be behind the bushes, and chances are they won't even know it's there. I went over and looked at it. There's a bunch of bushes around the pump itself. The fence was on the outside of the bushes. This is going to be on the inside of the bushes. So chances are that after it's installed, no one will probably even see it.
Yeah, I guess that's my only concern.
Again, if Mark feels it's a distraction visually in any way, that he would have full approval to say we're not doing this.
Good. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I just don't want my friend the Dorgans, who live just above that box, to say this is hideous and why did you do that?
Dave can't see that far. Dave can't see that far.
I don't know. It's right under their window.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, I was over there. They won't even. He's going to paint it green, and it's going to blend in with the leaves around the bushes. And I don't think anyone will listen to it.
I trust you and Mark.
Yeah, I think we should just go ahead and do this in terms of a permit. The only times you run into a problem with a permit is when you ask for one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
I agree with Jeff on that one.
Can I get
Sounds like a good Republican chat.
Steve, can you just make a motion to?
I make a motion that we allow Alberto to put up a sound barrier with the ramifications that Mark has final approval on anything we do.
John Mulligan, will you second that?
He put his hand
Do I
up.
have a second?
I second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, let's call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Very good. I believe that concludes our business for today. Next board meeting is September 21st at 1 o'clock.
Oh,
So I need a
cow.
motion for adjournment.
Probably not.
Motion to adjourn.
Rick Sanders, a second. Brownie, all in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries.